All right. Well, let's close her down with some Bitcoin and some gold.
Bitcoin and gold. Caveat: I'm fans of both.
Yes, I am as well.
Yeah.
I guess the only question is with Justin. No,
I would be a fan if I owned either.
All right.
Get that gold ring on.
Yeah, that's good enough.
All right. So this clip was running across X yesterday of Natalie Brunell and Peter Schiff, two very trusted names in the world of personal finance right now. Incredible platforms, but they both were on Fox Business. And many are saying Brunell murdered Peter Schiff.
Well, yeah, he's coming probably from the Bitcoin therapist.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, the few minutes here, the first couple of minutes are worth a listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bitcoin is going much lower than this. If Natalie were smart, as soon as this segment is over, she would sell all of her Bitcoin. Because if she doesn't sell it now, she's going to sell it later at a much lower price.
All right. Well, them's what we call fighting words. And I think there's similar drivers for both. But let me introduce the two. Natalie, meet Peter. Peter, meet Natalie. All right, Natalie, some choice words for you. What would you tell Peter?
Oh, I know, Peter. And you know what? Bitcoiners don't feel the need to constantly attack gold because we're not threatened by gold. And the reason that we have this failed fiat experiment that has impoverished our nation is because of the defects of gold. The fact that it's not easily portable, it's not easily verifiable, it doesn't offer instant final global settlement. And so you know what? Centralized authorities hijacked it, they papered over it, and we have a system of leverage and rehypothecation that hurts the working class. Bitcoin is immune to all of that. It is the savings account for billions of people that we really need and can most rely on, and it offers that final global settlement that we need. And so gold is the analog version of sound money, but Bitcoin is the digital version, and that's why it's going to be the faster horse in this race.
Peter?
There's nothing sound about Bitcoin. It's losing the race right now. Take a look at your screen. Gold is up $25.
They're showing a 1 week chart.
Bitcoin is getting
Come on, guys.
clobbered. You know, there is no flaw in gold. Gold worked great for 5,000 years. The problem is the flaw is with governments. The flaw is with human beings, not with gold.
I would agree with that.
But Bitcoin is really flawed because it doesn't have any actual value. Gold is the most useful metal on the periodic table. That's why it's money. Now, it has great characteristics that make it better money than other commodities, but absent its intrinsic value, it couldn't be money. And Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. It's just a digital
let me jump
string
in 1 second.
All right, pause it there.
I mean, where does gold's intrinsic value come from, though? You know what I mean? It's because people have given it value, right?
Well, so, let's hit the next 10, 15 seconds because
it's a bunch of hype.
Anything could be money, right? On the island of Yap, they used to have big stone money.
You can tell he read the Bitcoin Standard.
If people use it as an exchange. And this is the thing.
But
all right,
that's
there you
because
go.
But here's...
So to your point.
Yeah. So, I mean, to Peter Schiff's credit, the dude's incredibly sharp.
Absolutely.
And he was, one of the people that was outspoken that called 2008 before it happened. He also runs a company called Euro Pacific Capital, which does two things. Helps people buy foreign currencies and gold, right? So he obviously has a vested interest in saying that. What I think is more funny is his son is a huge Bitcoin maxi.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, they even beef on Twitter too. So he's held this stance for a really, really long time. I think the gap comes for Peter in the fact that he just doesn't understand the revolutionary nature of the technology and how it's being used and what's being built on it. And the simple concept is this, is if you could go back to 1983 and instead of building a company on top of the internet, I told you could own a piece of the internet and everything that was built on top of it would create value for you. What would you choose? Build a company on top or own the internet?
Own the internet all day.
100%. And so that's exactly what's happening with Bitcoin is it is its own network, right? And it does have intrinsic value because by default, there is a limited amount of Bitcoins that will be ever released ever. And it is secure in the sense that it requires 90% consensus to make a change in the protocol, right? That's not how it works with the federal government.
Right.
It took a couple people at Congress to go, hey, we're going to print $1.2 more trillion. You guys in? Aye. Right.
Yeah. Janet Yellen decides we're adjusting rates. There it goes.
Right. So the whole point is anytime you have, the control of money in the hands of a few people, that's when you get these problems. And so Peter said something which is hilarious, which is the problem lies in the governments and the people. So that's never going to change.
Right.
And unfortunately, gold its utility in the economy is not very useful, though it's a great store of value. It's really hard for me to like shave off a couple ounces of gold and be like, I'll give you that instead of dollars. Right. So he's actually making a case for Bitcoin when he says that about utility. Now, Bitcoin's flaw, in my opinion, currently is it is very hard to store securely. People can easily get hacked. That most people don't even understand what cold storage is, which is effectively storing your Bitcoin keys offline and locking it up, and
hoping
that
nothing happens to it.
Yeah, and because let's face it, the vast majority of people are lazy and don't want to take the time to learn this new stuff. Right. Law of diffusion of innovation says that they will probably want to adopt it. That said, you guys ever heard of the S curve? Do you know what that is?
I've heard of the term, but in terms of its application.
So the S curve, I think I put a chart in there. Yeah, this is an article. So the concept is this. There's a great book by Jeffrey Moore called Crossing the Chasm. It basically says that 2.5% of every, populace are what we would call the innovators. Then you have 13.5% of the populace that are the early adopters. And then you have 34% of them that are the early majority. Then you have another 34% that are the late majority. And then you have the laggards, right? So if you're talking about it in concepts that we can all understand, laggards are the only reason those people have like smartphones is because you can't buy flip phones anymore, right? The early majority, who's the first largest segment of the market, won't do something until somebody else has done it first, i.e. the early adopters. The S curve says that for however long it took for us to get 10% adoption, once we cross that threshold, we will receive 90% adoption in an equal amount of time. So it took 10 years for Bitcoin to get 10% adoption, which means in the next 10 years, even less now, we're going to see 90% adoption. Now, how that's going to take place, I don't really know. A lot of it's probably going to be coming by way of just it getting integrated in things that we use every single day, like the ability to pay with it and exchange it and store it more securely. But this is where we're at. But scroll up a little bit on this chart. So these are all S curves for different products that have been adopted in society, right? So you can see you got telephone, auto, radio, electricity, refrigerator, stoves, clothes, washers, clothes, dryers, air conditionings, etc. And it's showing you can't see the whole chart, but it's showing you relatively like how long it took for these things to happen, and then what happens once they cross that threshold, how it goes exponential. Wow. And so this happens over and over and over again as new technologies make its way. Yeah. So we do this. We don't even realize that it's happening to us. And all of us sit at different stages on this adoption curve, right? There might be certain products that you adopt straight away because it aligns with your beliefs, right? There might be other products that you won't adopt because they don't align with your beliefs. I would venture to say that eventually Peter Schiff will be an adopter. He'll just be a lagger, right? So you can't necessarily look to him as the shining example of why you should adopt Bitcoin, right? And to Natalie Brunell's point, she's saying effectively, we don't really care what gold's doing. It doesn't really matter to us, right? We're still at the beginning of the S curve, right? And we might even own some gold. We don't ultimately care about that because it has no impact on us. So it's pretty interesting to see how it's all going to play out. I do think Peter Schiff is wrong, and he's gonna attack the volatility of Bitcoin over and over and over and over again. Maybe he's proxy through his son, right?
And this may be a deeper topic than you want to delve into, but what does government intervention into the Bitcoin markets look like? Because I don't think that they can control the production of Bitcoin, but I do think that they can control the access to the internet in a way that could stifle growth. But am I missing something?
I don't think you can, because just like give you an example, there are proxy servers out there right now where I can literally use the open bandwidth on millions of computers to change my IP address every fraction of a second to where it looks like there's millions of IPs at one time.
But doesn't that presuppose access to Wi-Fi and digital infrastructure that, say, for instance, the people in North Korea where they've totally banned the internet? It doesn't exist for them.
I know, but
so can they ever be adopters of Bitcoin, or is their government going to get to control that? And what does that look like? And again, I'm uneducated on this. I'm looking to
in that particular situation, sure, but our entire society runs on the back of the internet infrastructure right now, right?
Sure.
And the government's even working towards a CBDC, right? Centralized digital currency. And so, if you get rid of the internet, you get rid of a lot of things, online banking, you get rid of electric cars, you get rid of, a lot of other things that are pretty heavily reliant. Tax collection, all these things that would actually set us back pretty far. So I don't see that happening, but they could potentially try to ban the use of it in commerce. But here's what's unique about Bitcoin is we have our own exchange.
Right.
So we can go peer to peer. We don't need an intermediary to make that transaction. It'd be the equivalent of, whatever us trading these soda cans,
Right. Yeah. And I guess my view is, as somebody who's genuinely uneducated on the crypto stuff, and I shouldn't be, I have every reason to be educated on it, and I should be, but the basic example that I keep coming back to is if I've got Bitcoin in an account and the internet crashes, the Bitcoin's worthless. If I have gold in a safe and the internet crashes, I still have the gold at least. And to me, that provides a level of security that makes me feel comfortable. And maybe it's just a false feeling of comfort.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But I think that's the other thing to understand too, is that Bitcoin will still exist even if the internet went down, right? Because theoretically we could exchange by way of our phones being connected to each other, right? So you could blow, I think the last statistic I saw is you could blow up 90% of the world and the Bitcoin network would still exist because it's using computer space and internet, right, to keep the network alive. So now this is why I'm a fan of both, right?
Sure.
It's just like having cash. It's just like, I'm not a big drinker, but I definitely stockpile some alcohol because I know that might come in handy one day, right?
Well, yeah, I might come by the house.
Yeah, exactly. So, having physical gold is still a great store of value, but to completely just negate Bitcoin and say it's dumb and stupid is, in my opinion, just ignorant. It's the same people that are up there like, this email thing will never catch on. This internet thing, it'll never catch on.
So both of our dads and nobody else.
Yeah, exactly. So, his age is showing, right? It's just, it's his ability to understand this concept. Cause I didn't understand it. You use the word crypto. Anybody who's a Bitcoin maxi would say Bitcoin and crypto are not the same thing.
Okay.
Bitcoin is owned by the network, which means the people who own Bitcoin own the protocol, which means millions of people, right?
Sure.
Versus like something like Ethereum, which is no different than a centralized digital currency because there's a small group of people who control the protocol. And if they decide to fork, meaning change the way that consensus works on the network, then they essentially could devalue the rest of the way it used to be done, the old coins, right? Okay. And change it to the new coins, which probably generally benefits them. I'm sure they were on the right side of the trade before they made that decision, right? But it would require 90% of the Bitcoin holders to make a decision together. We can't even agree on who would be president. No way. And now all of a sudden we're going to get 90% of the people to agree on how we should change the network. And people have tried and it's failed time and time again. So, but the internet came about in 1983. Have we ever had a global internet collapse?
Nope.
Okay. So some of those things are unfounded, right?
Sure.
They're definitely a reality we should consider. And I don't think that, gold and these other things just go away entirely. But I do think that the point that Natalie Brunell is making is the current system sucks, right? The current system, the fiat current system that she said they papered over, meaning they got rid of the gold back. And now you have currency that they can just print at will. Like, why are we doing that? And that leads to a fundamental question. If the government can just print more money, why do we pay taxes? Right? Because they're effectively inflating away any value that we do have. So hence why it's substantially more expensive to live today than it was 1987, right? And why it's increasingly more expensive day in and day out. Yeah, it was a good one. I especially appreciate you coming on today.
Happy to be here, man. Thank you guys for having me.
It's been awesome.
Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let me know how I can help. I want in.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We just appreciate your ears and your eyes and your time. 2 hours today, we rocked together.
Yeah, dang.
So, the ever-changing landscape of entrepreneurship is yours for the navigating, but we're here in the journey with you. Until next time, this is Pain Points for the World Meets Business. Can we get some outro music as we leave our friends here?
Oh,
I was hoping for a good day.
yeah, that's right. This is a good song too, though.
This is good. Take care, guys.
Peace.